Welcome to Bookview TV. I'm Dennis Campbell. Now this week on the program, we look at the soon-to-be best-selling book released 3 weeks ago by Dutton Penguin called An Atheist in the Foxhole, a liberal's 8-year odyssey inside the heart of the right-wing media. Now its author is Joe Muto. He spent more than 8 years inside the belly of the Fox News channel beast as an associate producer on the Bill O'Reilly show, The O'Reilly Factor. After graduating from Notre Dame and striking out in the job market, Joe Muto sent an audacious cover letter for a web writer's job at Fox. It got the attention, though, of programming executives, and he was invited to interview, not for a website job, rather as a production assistant. Now, Joe had a dilemma. He needed work, but he described himself as a liberal, and here he was set to enter the conservative news world of Fox. He held his nose, buried his head, rising up through the ranks from PA, that's production assistant, to associate producer on Bill O's show. Then in 2011, it all got to be too much, and the thought of working another election cycle made him plan his exit strategy. The execution of that strategy, though, left a lot to be desired, and he's here to talk about it all today because he worked for Gawker.com and became the now infamous Fox Mole. He's here to talk about it all right now. Joe Muto, welcome to Bookview TV.
Thanks so much for having me.
I got to say, I really enjoyed the book. It was an easy read, and you wove your way around your firing from Fox into the book's narrative. I thought that was a really cool plot device. Now, some will call this book and your decision to leave and go to Gawker rather than just leave a bit of self-inflicted, perhaps even almost a narcissistic implosion. How would you respond to that?
I would probably 100% agree with that. This was not a good idea. I don't want to, tell your listeners or your viewers that, I don't want to mislead them and make them think that this was a well thought out plan. This was a horrible idea, and and it backfired pretty quickly. And luckily, this is America, and when you screw something up, you get to write a book about it. So that's that's why this book is before you today. No, I mean, it was, I don't regret leaving Fox. I don't. It was time to leave there. I couldn't take it another day, especially with the election coming up. I would have, ran screaming out of the building. In retrospect, I wish I had gone a bit more quietly. I did not want to get tangled up in the court system. I did not want to have to take on the combined forces of Roger Ailes and Rupert Murdoch. That was, something I was not well equipped or prepared for. It was, in my mind, when I started this thing, I thought it was going to be small and, 36 people in Manhattan would chuckle at it and then click on to something else. And instead it blew up into this big thing, and it became such a thing overnight. And, I knew right away that I was dealing with forces that I didn't understand. And I'd unleashed something that I wasn't prepared to deal with. So, yeah, narcissistic, I don't know. I mean, writing a book is inherently narcissistic. Or writing a memoir, I guess, is inherently narcissistic. So, I suppose there's some truth to that charge. But, I'm pretty ambivalent about the whole, firing and everything like that.
Now, the title, An Atheist in the Foxhole, that refers back, obviously, to the famous quote, "There are no atheists in a foxhole," that was apparently attributed to a U.S. Army chaplain in the Battle of Bataan. Aside from some clever wordplay, how did that title come about? Is that the original title?
That is the original title. That was on the book proposal, and that was I forget when that came to me, but it always seemed like it was accurate in that I am an atheist. It's not, that's not a big part of the book, as you know. I don't really delve into that too much, but also it to me spoke of my experience being a sort of non-believer in a workplace full of true believers, full of people who totally bought into the Fox point of view and believed the hype to an extent. I think, as I say in the book, no one really believed, even the most conservative producers and staffers, no one really believed that what was going on there was fair and balanced.
True. Now, you one of the things that jumped out at me was your desire to have Roger Ailes basically lift the veils and say that they're fair and balanced and re-report you decide mantras are complete BS. What from working on the inside, or when was the point that you realized it was BS to you?
Oh God, almost almost immediately. I think I say in the book it was about 6 months in, maybe even 5 months in, where they make you go to this meeting. We called it the Koolaid conference, as in, have you drank the Fox News Kool-Aid yet? And it's you in a room with an executive, one of the higher executives, like it was the news director, I think was his title, and they ask you, what do you think about this place? Do you we say we're fair and balanced. Do you believe that? What do you think about, our critics say we're too conservative. Do you agree with that? And they go through and they sort of quiz you, and you have to lie basically and say, oh no, we're not conservative here. Our critics, don't actually watch us, and the rest of the media is so liberal, we just look conservative by comparison, and you go on and on until they're satisfied, and then you get a promotion. You go from, I was freelance up until that point, and after that, and about 2 weeks after that meeting, I became full-time and got health benefits and a very minuscule raise. I think I went from $12 an hour to $12.74 an hour or something like that. But I was talking about that meeting with some of my fellow production assistants, and some who I knew were conservative, and I was like, oh yeah, they're asking me all these questions, and about fair and balanced, and they're like, oh, you lied, right? You lied about those, and I said, oh, well, yeah, I did, but you guys did too. I thought you believed this stuff. They're like, nah, we don't, we know it's all BS. We know it's just the company line. So I could tell, that this was, like I said, 6 months into the job. So I knew right away that there was this, even among the true believers on the staff, there was this cynicism that, they knew it was not our job to produce the news down the middle, fair and balanced. They knew it was our job to slant the news and present it how, Roger Ailes wanted us to present it.
Let's talk a little bit about Roger. You say Fox doesn't push a message. Rather, it is gravitationally pulled by Roger Ailes and then pushed down their simplified management structure. Walk me through how a story meme is created and it then permeates all Fox News Channel coverage.
Well, the way the shows work at Fox is they're pretty autonomous. They get, they're allowed to go off in their own direction and pursue the stories they want to pursue. So, if what would happen is, though, every day the shows have to send a list of their topics and their guests, to the management. It gets reviewed by people at the vice president level, basically. So they're looking at that, and if there's something on there they don't like, they'll hear about it. They'll email you, they'll call you, they'll say, you can't do this topic, you can't have this guest, that kind of thing. So there is a level of autonomy, but it's very heavily regulated, and there are certain times when guests are just banned. There are certain guests who are just straight up banned from the network.
Like Bill Maher.
Bill Maher is banned from the network. For a while, I don't know if it's still the case or if they've been allowed back on, but for a while, any reporter from Politico.com, any reporter from there was banned.
Why is that?
That's the thing. Nobody knew. They wouldn't tell us. There was speculation. Someone had written. My guess is someone had written an article that had pissed off Ailes or pissed off one of the more powerful anchors, but they wouldn't tell us, and it was, it was very inconvenient for us because Politico is a great organization in that they have a lot of reporters who are smart and they make themselves available at all hours. You can call them and have them on your show 20 minutes later. They're very good at getting you people. So that was very inconvenient for us to have them banned. A lot of liberals are banned from the network, especially the stronger ones. If you can make a good argument for the liberal side, you're not allowed on the network. They never say that's why they're not allowed on the network, but that's my theory. They'll always come up with another reason, for why they're banned. But it's my theory is it's that they're too good at making the other side's arguments.
You talked about Ailes' philosophy of hotness in female news anchors. I still refer to them as news actresses. And the premium placed on graphics is a much broader plan hatched by Ailes that said the channel with the most exciting presentation would win. It looks like indeed it did in terms of audience. How did that actually work?
Well, I mean, that's hiring decisions. That starts with Ailes and filters down to everyone. And they realize that a pretty face and a nice set of legs are really valuable commodities in a news anchor. And the ability to not stumble over your words. Anything beyond that is a bonus. Like there are certain anchors who have those things, plus are pretty smart and good journalists, like Megyn Kelly, one of our daytime anchors, springs to mind. She's sort of a total package. But in lieu of journalistic credentials, you can always just grab basically a bikini model who can read off a prompter, and there's your Fox anchor right there. That's network people, or that's people hired by the network, and that's also guests hired by the network. Like that was one of the best ways to get Bill O'Reilly's attention when we were in the pitch meeting, was to say, hey, I've got a guest, she's really good looking. And you'd actually go so far as to, you'd print out a picture of her and say, here's what she looks like. And he'd give me that paper, look at it. All right, book her tomorrow. That would draw his attention immediately. And even so far as to, he likes to cover these stories where the teachers have sex with their students, but only the female teachers have sex with their male students. He loves those stories, but only if the teacher is good looking. If the teacher's unattractive, then, no one cares.
There was a story that was aggregated from a number of different news sources that you talked about in the book called Hip Hop Doesn't Create Jobs, that had that Fox combination of non sequitur, ad hominem attack, gleeful race baiting, and willful disregard of the facts. Those were your words. Now, it seems to critics that, particularly when you look at this, 8 years is a long time to come to that conclusion and then act on it. Why would it take so long for you to, go through an environment like that before you'd actually take some action and actually either leave or go to Gawker?
Well, I think I pointed out in the book that it was a silly thing to get to sort of spur me to that conclusion to leave, but it was sort of the final straw. Like, it had been gnawing at me for a while in the back of my head, like, this place is not for you. You're never going to fit in here. You're never going to advance because, people have basically caught on that where my personal beliefs lie. So I think the headline was Obama's hip hop barbecue didn't create any jobs. And it was so offensive to me. It was just, and the network never, the network was called on it. Some, media all over were like, all right, this is ridiculous. This is a Fox News owned website that has this headline that is, I think, race baiting. Absolutely. The headline and the graphic underneath, that was Obama next to a bunch of other black guys. So it was race baiting. And it was just, to me, it was just the final straw. So it wasn't, if it had been that just in and of itself, yeah, that would have been ridiculous for that to make me so angry. But it was sort of the accumulation of things over the year, and that was sort of the last, that was the cherry on top, I guess.
Wow. Well, interesting stuff, Joe. And when we come back with part 2 of our interview, we're going to take a look at how Joe started as a $12 an hour production assistant and the long climb up the Fox News Channel ladder. We're talking with Joe Muto, author of the recently released An Atheist in the Foxhole. He was the mole at Fox TV, here on Bookview TV. Stay right here.